Hello and welcome to Easy Robot. My name is Victoria Bennett, and today we are going to be hearing from Easy Robot, the most engaging robotic education platform to meet the need for robotic literacy and mastery. If you have any questions, just add them into the comment box on the screen and we will answer them before the end of the session. First off, I'm going to introduce Dennis Kambeitz, CEO and Business Development Manager, Anthony Mesmar. Dennis is called upon globally to speak about educational robotics and also robotics and AI in general and its impact on society. Prior to becoming CEO, he was the leading reseller for Easy Robot. Anthony has over a decade of successful business development with educational institutions. Anthony leads business development for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Now, for the attendees, great to see you today. Thank you for joining us. If you want to add into the chat what you hope to get out of this session, I'll make sure we review it and make sure that you get what you're looking for. I'll sneak those questions in for you. Dennis, in the previous weeks, you have clearly articulated the opportunity in educational robotics. The educational robotics market is currently about $1 billion, just not small fry, and expected to reach about $3 billion by 2028. That's a compound growth rate, a CAGR of between 15 and 27%, depending on whose numbers you're looking at, which is huge. What I've been really interested in is why you as Easy Robots believe that you're destined to capture more than your share due to higher levels of engagement. Last week, we met your team. Anthony was on there, but we met the whole team, and they also demonstrated the depth and skill set to support your growth. So let's just take a few steps back, because today is really talking about robotics and education. But didn't Easy Robot start off as a DIY robot?
Yeah, it did. It was the original founder, DJ Scherz, created a robotics platform that was great for it's kind of funny. He was making something that was going to be great for the DIY space, and the way I kind of view it is he was trying to make something that DIY users could turn into powerful robotic applications, and he massively overran that. He used a product that was so easy to use and powerful that everybody could create powerful robotic applications and powerful robots. And so when I saw that, about a decade ago, I was encouraging him that I'm like, man, your product is incredible for education. You can get students as young as 10 years old making really powerful robots. You should pivot that into education. He was still involved in making the robot be as great as it can be, making the software be as great as it can be, building the platform up. So I decided that I would start to move it into the educational realm because I felt that this was incredibly important. We've talked about the impact robotics and AI are going to have over the next 10 years. We're already seeing these changes happening in the workspace. And I was able to recognize a long time back that everybody will need this literacy to be able to understand robotics and AI. And I also was able to clearly see that the other platforms that were out there were only engaging a very narrow set of students. And so what I love best about this product, it's incredibly powerful. You can go all the way to the top and do unbelievable things with it. But it's so easy to use and versatile that virtually everybody can learn robotics, and and it inspires a massively higher level. So I was excited about getting this into education for really the societal and humanity benefit of that. But I'm also, pretty entrepreneurial, and I understand that that's a massive, massive market and an incredible business opportunity as well.
That tees in quite nicely, sort of, if the size is one of the features of the educational market that's really appealing. What else is it that's appealing about the educational market?
Well, I think one of the things that is nice about that is we have the ability to grow fairly rapidly. And that is both within school districts. Once one school gets the robots and they start to see the impact it has, the potential for flourishing is there. And then teachers change schools, and principals change schools, and they of course want to bring that level of engagement to their new schools as well. So it's got the ability to grow organically quite nicely, but we also have the ability to reach educators through value-added resellers, educational resellers. And this is something that I was initially, for the first 6 years that I was working with this platform. And my story was very organic and interesting as well, where, I started out trying to, just introduce this to educators. And we would always deal with them completely transparently. Here's the great things about the product. Here's some things that you have to do to make them work in the classroom. And the educators would make comments like, we love working with you. Do you know what 3D printer we should get? And I'd be like, okay, let me go investigate 3D printers and I'll let you know, right? So I started going through and building up a real big knowledge of a range of different products. And so as a reseller, I was selling a lot of different ed tech. And what I know is from my time as a reseller, resellers have a large, well, some of them do. Some of them have massive databases of educators. They know the right people to talk to in their own marketplace. And so by going into the education space, firstly, it's a massive market. It's a market that simply must be addressed by society to prepare our youth for what's coming. Again, we talked about that previously. But all schools need to be teaching this, and all schools need to be teaching this in a way that engages everybody. And that's where we've had a high level of success. So we know that we've got an incredible product for the education marketplace. My experience as a reseller helps me understand what the resellers need and what the benefits of that model are.
Mm-hmm. Now, Easy Robot is a global company. Anthony, you've got a lot of experience. Dennis, you're global, but when you were a reseller, you were more North American. Anthony, you've got that experience of Africa, the Middle East, and Europe, massive markets. And if we want to look at it, probably markets that may invest in education more than some North American countries. So what are the features that you see that are particularly appealing for Easy Robot in education space?
Yeah, to add on to what Dennis was saying, I think he stole a lot of my thunder there with us talking about resellers. But I think it was Nelson Mandela that once said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And I think here we at Easy Robot, we understand the impact that robotics and AI will have on the workplace. And it really is alarming when you see that schools follow what I would call ancient curriculums and teaching methods and subjects that will not be relevant in 10 years. And probably a lot of them are not relevant at the moment. So
do you mean my Latin lessons weren't useful? But I can say we need to do in Latin.
Your Latin lessons are useful if anyone else is speaking Latin. But, in the future, I think the languages that we will be speaking are going to, shift to, the coding and the programming languages. Obviously, English, French, and all the other languages will still be used. But when you're communicating with robotic applications, you need to speak their languages, not ours. So for me, the most important and appealing advantage of targeting the education market is that through a school, we can reach a large number of students and give these students the robotic literacy that they're going to need by the time they graduate and enter the workforce. So for example, you look at one classroom set of our robots can give this robotics literacy to more than 300 students per semester or per year, depending on the school and how they schedule their robotics classes. So in that aspect, you are targeting a wider audience. You're making sure that more students are prepared. And it's, you are reaching out to just one school in this case. So one school can potentially, educate 300 or 400 students, this important education. The second, I think, most important advantage is obviously the potential that we have to grow as Easy Robot, knowing that, governments and education institutions starting to realize what's coming and starting to make serious adjustments. Obviously, the financial potential would be huge as they start to understand this a bit more. We want to make sure that we continue to invest in our marketing efforts to spread awareness, to share some of the knowledge that we have. and as well invest in expanding our network and market reach. So with more sales and investment, we can reach more students and secure more prosperous future for them through these skills that we will be helping them learn. And these skills are definitely going to be something that's required in future jobs, just like, we put on our resumes, knowledge in Excel and Microsoft Office and all of these different digital skills that 10 years ago were advantage. If you don't have them now, you are extremely disadvantaged.
Yeah, you're very limited on what jobs you can have. So what you're saying is today you say Microsoft Office, and that's almost like a table stake what people expect. In 5 years' time, it'll be robotics literacy will be your table stake.
I mean, I've removed it off my resume because I think, there's no point in putting that, because that should be a given at this stage. It shouldn't be like an extra skill that people have. And it's going to be the same with, robotics and programming languages and so on.
So what I'm hearing from you then is really, through the resellers is you're going to be your key route to get to the teachers, the educators. One of the things about reaching the educators is then it can actually fan out, because as they move on and actually just with the way that Easy Robot is designed, you can actually educate a large number of students every year. And so
Absolutely.
It's a recurring side of things. And so this current capital raise you're doing, which is ready to invest in those resellers and invest in the marketing, is sort of key to your success. Did I steal
Absolutely.
your thunder there then? Let's just steal each other's thunder. Okay.
Can I jump in? I just want to, Anthony, maybe like a great way to showcase this, Victoria, would be to talk about our experience with Younger, which is our Polish reseller, right? So, Anthony, do you want to talk a little bit about, what steps they've taken and stuff with, because we don't speak Polish, right? So.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, so Younger, hats off to them and a shout out to them if they're actually tuned in and listening. They came in, they were very excited. They were what I would call a visionary reseller, where they knew there was a need for this education. They had researched a lot of different products and actually approached us saying, we'd like to talk. So we had a couple of meetings with them. In the end, we decided that they were going to be a great fit, and a great fit they were. So they've managed to take all our products. Not only did they develop a marketing campaign around the different products that we have, but they also took things like the information that we provided, translated it into Polish, are doing webinars in Polish, going out to the market, being extremely active. So it's those kind of gem resellers that I feel that when they understand what's needed to be done, and when they follow some of our advice and guidelines to what they could and should be doing in their markets, we see success in Poland because of, a proactive role that they've been taking. So
and Poland's a country where they really value education.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of these, Poland, Estonia, a lot of these Eastern European countries and Nordic countries have a huge focus on the education system. And frankly, probably some of the best in the world. I know Finland's been mentioned a few times. Estonia is one of those upcoming countries that's also been mentioned a few times. So it's not, you don't have to be a wealthy nation to recognize the importance of this education and how this technology is going to impact the lives of your citizens, or your day-to-day activities, whether it's government or different industries that this specific country might have the strength in. But when you start to realize how it's going to change and you start implementing it at an early stage, you're going to have a huge advantage as a country and as a nation. So, hats off to our reseller Younger in Poland for realizing that and going the extra mile. It's not just translating these lessons plans. It's actually, participating at events, visiting schools, holding workshops. I mean, these are the activities that we look for when we look for a reseller.
I was going to say, how do you identify those resellers? How do you make sure that they have your products, not, Vex or Lego or any of the other competitors?
I think even if they do carry the other products, when they start to realize what the current products that they're selling or they're carrying actually achieve compared to what we can actually achieve, when they start realizing the actual problem that's going to be growing larger and larger over the next decade, it's absolutely simple to make a decision to go with Easy Robot because we simply engage a lot more students. So would you not want to educate the masses? Would you not want to give them the literacy? Or would you still want to focus on, the 30 students in the robotics class or the, 15 students in the robotics class? Because these students are going to grow up and they're going to be literate and it's going to be incredible for them. But what about the remaining students? So when they start seeing the bigger picture and realizing that it's not just about the competitions that their schools are participating in or which, place that they achieve in that competition, they'll start to realize that, the products that are out there in the market aren't doing the job. So, they venture out and they start working with us and they see better results.
I'd like to piggyback on that as well, Victoria. I've got, I've kind of got the exact right experience and history to be able to help resellers, become effective and to be able to identify which resellers are going to do a good job, because I was a reseller for 6 years, right? So I know what products work great in what situations. I understand the challenges and pressures that resellers face. So when we go out to build a reseller network, we're building very close relationships with our resellers, right? It's a lot of times when you're, if you're looking at a distribution model and you're looking at, okay, we're going to go out through resellers, one of the challenges that companies can sometimes face is, okay, this reseller has 100,000 products, 100 products, whatever that number is. It's hard to become a product of note so that those resellers care about you, right? And that they're going to push your product, because you don't want to be one of 100,000 in the catalog. That doesn't move the needle for us. But when we find the right type of reseller and we work with them closely, it provides such huge value. We can't translate our materials to Polish, right? We don't have that capability in-house. Poland is, a market that looks great for us right now because we've got a good reseller that's doing the right types of things. And this is one of the big advantages of the resellers is they know their markets, they know the right contacts, they've got existing relationships, and existing relationships are very important, right, in the education space, because educators want to know they're buying from people they trust, people that are local, people that are going to be there, and that they're getting honest advice, not just, hey, here's a product that I can sell you, right? So we're really good at identifying resellers and working with them to grow. And, one of the nice things is we've got a product that meets such an important need, and it's truly organically important to the sales reps of our resellers, right? When you understand that the forecasts say 20 to 47% job elimination in your market, the resellers are like the actual people, the agents or the reps that are on the ground doing this work. They're sitting there saying, that's 20 to 47% job loss in my city, in my community. And they start to recognize that the work that they're doing, they're not just pushing a product. The work that they're doing is very important, right? It's helping to ensure that their community or their city or their state or country or province remains vibrant, right? That they're producing enough of the people that can take the right kind or the new type of jobs that are coming. And so, a lot of times I think, when companies are pushing a product that doesn't move the needle, it just becomes a catalog item. And again, I've been a reseller. We have catalog items. I know that they exist, right? Because you just don't have time to push every product. But when you understand the scope of the challenge that is coming, and you understand that here is a solution that doesn't just generate revenue for me, but it's important for my city, then you get the personal buy-in from the sales reps, from the company. And that's when you start to see significant growth and movement happening. And Easy Robot has that potential, which is why the reseller network for us is such a powerful vehicle.
So I'm just going to ask a sort of probably a leading question. I mean, we've gone through a couple of years of change in the last couple of years. I would say a lifetime's worth of change. You know, a number of countries are really looking at doing some navel gazing and working out where they want to go. I mean, my understanding is AI and robotics, China and US are number 1 and number 2. UK's number 3 and Canada's number 4 in the world in this space. So, you know, it is a chance to grab it. Do you think that the governments will start to put this into curriculum? Are you seeing any of this coming in? So, you know, because a lot of what you're doing is the educators are seeing the opportunity or the need and doing it. But do you see there coming any pressure from above?
Yeah, I mean, I can chat about this, Anthony, or you can chat about it, but do you want me to take it or do you want to take it?
Well, why don't you go first, and then I'll talk about at least you know some of the markets that I know and what you know the government, for example, in the UAE is trying to do, and so on.
Yeah. So we'll talk about this from different perspectives. So Anthony can talk about that, but as a reseller of educational technology, what I can tell you, Victoria, is the first 9 years, you know, pre-COVID, everything was bottom-up selling. It was one school here, one school there. And that was indicative of the fact that a principal or a teacher might recognize what's coming, might recognize the need for this type of education, be interested in robotics or AI or stronger computer science education. But it was pretty spotty. And what we're starting to see since last fall is districts are starting to pay attention to this and going, okay, we need to find solutions. And so we're starting to see the potential for top-down sales. And then, you know, what Anthony will talk about is the potential for top-down sales, which is ministries of education and stuff. We're starting to have those types of conversations as well. I'll let you take it from there, Anthony.
So, yeah, as Dennis was saying, it's we are starting to see a lot of governments start to realize, you know, what's going to be shape or how things are going to shape up in the future. And, you know, I grew up in a city that's now, you know, pushing forward with this change. So in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, for example, they've announced that they are going to start driverless taxis in 2023, which is next year. You look at, you know, some of the food delivery robots that are out there now, they're all autonomous. Some of them are you know, being controlled by people. Some of them are fully autonomous. I know that in the UAE as well, the government has launched a program called the Dubai Robotics and Automation Program, launched by His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed, who's the son of the ruler of Dubai and who will be the next ruler of Dubai. So very forward thinking. We're already in touch with government associations like the Dubai Future Foundation. We're in touch with a lot of the ministries of education in the whole region, and they are starting to notice. But I think the only hurdle that they have is trying to convince the masses, but at the same time trying to implement this in a program that's so structured and that's been like that for decades, where, you know, do we add robotics as an extra class, or do we add it as an after-school program? And that's, I think, what's taking time. But once they figure out how to do it, and this is why we're also constantly talking to them, because we advise them on what we believe is the easiest transition for them. But once they figure it out, I would see them rolling it out to the hundreds of schools underneath, you know, under their umbrella. Because in the end, some of these governments realize that they don't have this, or their people don't have the skill set needed. And this is taking place and happening very quickly. So, you know, once these little kind of teething problems that they are having right now, putting it into their curriculum, once that's done and agreed upon, then the rollout is going to be incredibly fast.
And I need to jump on that just one more time here as well, because one of the things that's interesting is as governments start to push towards stronger computer literacy, computer science education, robotics, AI, and they start to try to implement this, one of the challenges that they're going to face is, we know what the intrinsic interest is in robotics, right? We've talked about this in probably every presentation or every webinar. 3% of boys, 0.3% of girls at the high school level. We know this stat to be true. Computer science or robotics education isn't going to increase that percentage the way it's being taught, right? So there's a big difference between the amount of learning and the progress that happens if the students are dragging their knuckles into class and they're so disappointed to be there versus if they're really excited. And to toot this product's horn and our strategies and approaches to teaching robotics and AI and computer science, at the high school level, we increase enrollment for boys by tenfold. We can go from 30 boys to 300 in a couple of days, and we can go from 3 girls to 300 in a couple of days, right? We're typically hitting 25 to 45% of students at the high school level, so 250 to 450 out of 1,000. And right now, schools are typically seeing 3 to 30, girls versus boys. That is a massive increase. And for us to achieve that level of engagement, those are kids that now want to learn those subjects, right? So in regions or schools where this is not yet mandated, that's an incredible solution. But even once those subjects are mandated, utilizing a learning system or strategy that doesn't get kids wanting to learn it is going to be really difficult. It's the old push-pull problem. If you're trying to push computer education and robotics education into people, that's really hard. But if they're excited about it and they're pulling, that's really awesome. And that's one of the big advantages. I know that we're talking about reseller networks and stuff, but that's a really important difference that we have. Even once governments make this transition, we get the pull, and with a lot of other products, pretty much every other product, really it's a push.
I mean, if you think about some of the, subjects that we all took in school, which are the ones that actually, still resonate with us, or you still remember what you learned 10, 15, 20 years ago, or maybe even longer? It's the subjects that you actually were interested in. So if you're being forced to take a class just because someone says it's important, you're not going to learn. If it's something that intrigues you, that sparks that, interest of finding out what else the robot can do, or how else could I, make it move or make it do what I want it to do, then that's when the real learning happens. It's when you intrigue a student. It's when you get them excited and interested in it, enough for them to ask for more. And this is what we've seen in our school visits. We've seen it and we've spoken about it, where I've seen students walk in that were absolutely not interested in being in the class and were rolling their eyes. And then, towards the end of it, they were the ones asking us more questions. And those are the students that are actually going to learn, not when you push something onto them, which is what unfortunately is happening with a lot of the products out there in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and certainly that's what will happen if governments mandate this education without having a learning strategy and solution that the kids are organically interested in. Sorry, go ahead, Victoria.
No, I was actually going to open the floor up to some questions, because I think it's we're having a good discussion. I want to make sure everybody else gets a chance to. So just pop the questions in. You can see me looking down. I'm just checking on Facebook. We've got people watching us on Facebook Live, as well as joining us today on the live webinar. So pop your questions into the chat and I will make sure they get asked. So, I mean, you talk about schools being a key channel for you, in fact, probably your main channel. What are the benefits of selling into schools?
I think that it's a steady and reliable customer base. Significantly, when we're talking about public schools and stuff, they've got their budgets, they've got their their dollars that they know they have, right? So it's a strong base that way. We don't see a lot of collectibles that we're having a hard time collecting. Would be the best way that I can put that. And so that's a real nice feature. But again, it's a growing marketplace, right? Like when we think, I mean, okay, so we've got a mature product. We're in 170 countries. We know people love our product. We know how to sell it. We know the impact it has on education. We've got all that. But just looking at the marketplace, here's an interesting thing. We've got competitors out there. They're selling the product as well. So we know that there's validation in the marketplace. We know that the marketplace is interested in this product. But we also know that the other companies aren't achieving the level of engagement that needs to be achieved. So what we're really looking at is almost a virgin market, because even the schools that have got competing products, if they're only getting 3% or 0.3% of the students, of the girls, then they need other solutions in addition to what they have, right? So you've got this marketplace that is forecast to grow at 20% on average per year, and truly should be growing at a significantly faster rate when we understand the scope of change that's coming. And then within that marketplace, we have a product line that is great for elementary schools or primary schools, middle schools, high schools, so you get your secondary schools there, and then post-secondary as well, right? Like, I mean, you've got students that you can make anything with this virtually, right? You can program robots that can do unbelievable things. So within the marketplace, we have the ability to get students very young and take them all the way up through the life cycle of their education, right? If we sell to a single user, and we're excited about single users as well. We're trying to help everybody here, and we're really excited about some of the things that our individual DIY users are doing. They're making incredible products and incredible robotic applications. So we're excited about that. But if we can, from a business perspective, okay, we're going to get a student at the beginning of their process, and then we can take them into intermediate, expert level. We can take them all the way up. So there's a large business funnel there for us, and because we're the most engaging robotics platform, that funnel is very wide at the top. It makes the education space just an incredible market for us.
I think, sorry to cut in here. I think
Anthony.
it's not just the most engaging product. I think for me, I would also describe it as the least intimidating robotics platform out there. Because again, if you're not engineering minded, and if you don't like, your nuts and bolts and 1,000 boxes and boxes of Lego that you have to spend weeks putting together, this is not something for me, neither as a child nor as an adult. So I think a market that I see that has also a lot of potential would be the retraining market for adults like you and I that don't have the robotics and AI literacy that will need it before we eventually retire. And, what am I going to choose? Am I going to choose something that is not as complicated to put together, but then the learning outcomes are incredible, and where it's the same product and software that I could start with building a small humanoid up until building a real life-size humanoid? Or would I choose a product that would require a lot of effort and potentially skill to put together? And by the time I'm done, I'm just exhausted and not really learning much, towards the later part of that. So I think the adult retraining market is a market that we haven't spoken about, because I think it's going to take a little bit of time for it to develop and mature. But I know that with the products that we have, with the incredible and powerful software that we also use, then it's something that will open up in the future and is going to be a great business opportunity for us. But right now, for us, it's how do we get this education to as many people as possible? And for me, the answer is through schools and universities, because you're educating the masses rather than, reaching out to a couple of students or a couple of parents and so on.
as you're saying, it's going beyond STEM and actually into not just people who are interested in the science and technology. I was going to say Boroda to Dimimu, who is from the University of Wales, and he thinks that robots should be personal assistants, but he also thinks they should be 6 foot tall. I'm not quite sure of your question there, but thank you for your comments there. And
well,
Nevin?
could I jump in? I mean,
Go
since there's someone from Wales, and I just wanted to share a story actually that came out from the University of Cardiff. So recently we had the University of Nottingham. They have a campus in Malaysia, a really big and beautiful campus. They purchased a few JDs, and when I reached out to them and I had a call with them, I realized that one of the professors at the University of Cardiff in Wales had actually worked with our robots and recommended our robots all the way from Wales to Malaysia. And now we have positive results, positive news coming out of a country that we might have not had reach in at the time that this happened, that now are already using our robots. And it's nice to see that a lot of these educators, whether it be K-12 or university as well, recommending easy robots. So we're starting to see that's happening. And what we're trying to do marketing wise as well is to continue to reach out to these educational institutions through things like our newsletters, with relevant educational news, blogs, articles, as well as information about easy robots, tips, tutorials, and anything that could be used in the classroom and outside. So I just thought, someone is from Wales, and it was a nice story for me that it went from Wales to Malaysia being recommended, and now we have clients in Malaysia that are using Easy Robot as well. So,
and Malaysia is a very advanced country that's really looking to develop. Oh, okay. I think it might be a good one to connect with you, Dimimu, with Anthony, and see how we can help you get your robot built. Unless you want to respond to that one, but I think that's a good one-on-one conversation. Nevin's
absolutely.
Asking,
if he'd like to if he'd like to email us, I'll drop my email here in the chat. I'm happy to set up a Zoom call at any time.
Perfect. And Nevin's asking about recommendations for distributing software, not physical educational solutions.
Solutions for distributing software, not physical education solutions.
Yes.
Okay, so if I'm understanding that correctly, that would be, for example, learning coding on your computer and that type of an approach, distance learning or something like that. So I'll answer it from the perspective of just computers and software and coding education, then what we've done with regards to distance learning, and then what we've done physically, and because I really think they're 3 separate things. So there are software programs out there that have robotic emulators and the like, and those would seem to be good solutions if you don't have the ability to physically have a robot. But so there are companies out there that do that. One of the challenges that happens is that the engagement level isn't as high. Being able to physically touch the robot, build the robot, see the robot physically move in front of you and get that real-time physical feedback is a big part of why we have such a high level of engagement, right? So I almost view it as good, better, best, right? So if you're in a scenario where that's your only option, then absolutely you should be learning robotics that way. Hands down, you should be doing it. But I would suggest that for the cost of a robot, for many people, that is a good way to go, because the value you're going to receive from that physical robot, from the Easy Robot product, is the value in education is going to be higher than what you're going to get otherwise, in my opinion. Now, people have used our robots and taught during COVID remotely. So students had robots at home. Teachers, were teaching robotics virtually. So that type of a situation also happens. It's kind of a hybrid type situation. But then the kind of, to me, that the top level of what the education can and should be is, again, people working with the robots, in a school setting or a classroom setting, collaborating, having access to more than one type of robot, because frankly, what a humanoid robot teaches you is quite different from what a rover robot teaches you. So getting that exposure is good. Getting that physical real world experience is good. If you've got a rover and you're teaching, okay, drive, do this obstacle course, pick up this object and put it in the back, that's great in the software perspective. But the software, it's like, how easy is it for your robot? It's like, go kind of down there and grab this and pick it up. Easy for the robot to do that in a software perspective. In the real world, that might be a whole different game. And you might determine that you need to have a camera on the gripper, or there's so many different possibilities that you get from physical robotics. Physical computing, I guess, is the term there. But the other interesting thing is, a lot of times people have concerns about the cost of physical robots, right? Our classroom set is $9,750 US, but which is, initially, potentially, there's a lot of sticker shock that can come from that, especially if you're in a country, in Africa, or or your individual classroom set has 15 robots, so that's, this guy is $600 US. But initially, that can produce some sticker shock. But when you understand the number of students that you can educate with that and the length of time you're using it, the cost per student, if schools are amortizing the cost over 5 years, which the product definitely has that lifespan, and if they are, maximizing schedule because multiple people can use the robots each day, the cost per student gets down to under $7 US per student to get this literacy. You can't get that cheaper, even in a scenario where you're using computers and you're logging in and you're doing it all virtually. You're still paying more than that $7 to get 40 hours or get that literacy. So the cost savings of doing it virtually, it seems like it's there because it's like, well, it's only costing me $5 a month, $10 a month, $15 a month, whatever that number is for that subscription fee. But because each student has to pay it, every student that's learning it over a period of 5 years, the cost of doing that is actually more expensive than buying the robots and teaching it class 1, class 2 it charges, teach it class 3, lunch it charges, teach it in the afternoon. You can get a better education for less money by doing it, what I would consider to be the optimal way.
It's more comprehensive as well. It's
so.
It's like learning a language through these apps. Yes, you might get to a level where you're confident enough, but then, go to France and try to speak French and you're like, oh, this is different than what I've been learning on Duolingo, for example. So it's a much more comprehensive approach when you have physical products, because as Dennis said, the programming, could be done, but then let's see how, your programming reacts in real life. Let's see the robots that you're programming. Let's see them do what you've programmed them to do, actually, in real time, for example. And with our robots, you could add more parts to it, while in the digital world, you're not really seeing these results in real time. You're just seeing the software do what it needs to do to show you that you've done the work. So I think, as Dennis said, if that's the only way that you can actually learn this, then great. But if you can afford to have the physical products and be able to interact with them, be able to touch them, explore how, removing a servo and adding a different one, the changes that can bring, then your understanding of robotics is more powerful and more in depth than just using a software and learning what you're going to learn out of it.
And the output is just way, way cooler.
Exactly.
So, got a great question here. Hopefully, Naveen, we answered yours. Should every reseller be as passionate about Easy Robot as you guys are?
Yes, but that's not realistic, right? So Victoria, I've been doing this for a decade, right? And you can imagine a decade ago, there was even less robotics, and this was way less on the radar a decade ago than it is now. And we're just starting to enter that beautiful part of the growth curve where people are waking up and going, okay, this is a product for the masses. This does have to happen. But I've been doing this for a decade. Would we love all of our resellers to be this passionate? Yes. But here's one of the really interesting things. The changes that are coming are coming. Reality is reality. Robotics and AI are going to redefine the workplace and society. It's important that we get this education to as many people. This is what helps society continue to function as well as we can through this transition. And for this reason, it's really important that we get this education locally. And this goes back to my earlier comment. And we know that when every person that's selling the robot, we know that they're not going to have this level of passion. But a lot of people do. And this is one of the other big advantages we have selling into education. It was the story that Anthony told about the University of Cardiff, and then I think it was Nottingham and Malaysia and stuff. When people see the impact and understand the importance of it, they talk about it. And if you're in North Dakota and you understand the changes that are coming to North Dakota, you want the solution to also come to North Dakota. Right, and so this is one of the reasons and advantages that we have. Like when we look for resellers, one of the reasons that we find great resellers, because it is intrinsically important to people, right? So many of our reseller partners are this passionate. We recognize not everybody will be, but it's critically important, right? And we
also educators.
Templates. Sorry, one second. A beautiful templated system. So everybody can have success with this, right? They don't have to be this passionate, but they can still have a lot of success. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, I was going to say educators are very passionate. They're very caring. And when we do find a reseller that's passionate as caring as well, trust is built, because none of us like to be sold to, right? But if I trust someone and I trust that they have my best interest in mind, and they have traditionally given me good recommendations that have actually worked, then, I as a consumer would blindly trust that reseller to give me the best possible product out there. So when we go out and we talk to educators, we want to make sure we first understand their problems and find solutions to them. And it could be sometimes that the solution might be a different product. For potentially much, much younger children, children younger than the age of 8, for example, we wouldn't recommend some of our products because it would be too much for the children to handle at that age. So, for me personally, I don't mind recommending a different product because that's the product that could give that level of education and that at that age, a slightly better education, because our robot is slightly for the 8 and above or 10 and above. So when educators see that, oh my God, Anthony is recommending something completely different. His intention is not just to sell me a robot. His intention is to actually put me on the right track. Then that builds trust. And for me personally, and this is what I try to instill in a lot of the resellers, that is extremely important. So, we try to be as ethical as possible, as trustworthy as possible. And, I think this is why, Dennis and I see eye to eye, because we have the same kind of approach to education, to business, and, now to robotics. So I think that's extremely important, where a lot of the resellers, as Dennis mentioned, we could potentially be one of hundreds of products out there. But there's not going to be that trust between the reseller and the education community. But when you have a reseller that is focused on building trust and relationship rather than, achieving margins and profits, I mean, both are important, but I think profits and margins will come when you build that trust and that relationship with the education community.
Well, I want to jump on that again. I know that we're talking a lot about some of these questions, but this is really important to understand. We are solving a natural problem, right? And when you're working in a framework where there's a natural outcome, it's an easier process in terms of selling. It's an easier process in terms of helping people out and getting them to go down the right path and the path that is going to genuinely help them. Let's take it back to something super easy. We're up in Canada, and if it's the middle of winter and you go outside without a jacket, it's cold, right? You're gonna quickly realize I should have a jacket, right? And in that environment, is it easier to sell the jacket? Yes. Okay, what kind of jacket do you want? A spring jacket or a winter jacket? Well, I'll take the winter jacket because that's the product that is needed. That solves the that's the natural consequence and outcome. And what we're talking about happening globally with robotics and AI, the natural outcome is that everybody needs this education. Therefore, we don't have to go in there and pull sales tricks or go in there and be high pressure. We just have to say, here's what's legitimately coming, and it's reality, and it's easily verifiable. These changes are happening today, and then here's a solution, and here's why it's a great solution, and here's why it's important to the community and to the kids and to the adults, and people will be passionate about that because it's true and it's real.
Yeah. Wow. I have a feeling we should probably, as we're coming up to time, I think that was probably a very good note to end on. You've really sort of shown how education is so vital in this space, and how or why you've chosen education as your main channel. And the potential that is there, and also how you're capturing it, how you're getting more than your share. You really understand the educational market and the support they need. So for the Easy Robot campaign is currently on Equivesto, has already achieved over 120% of its goal. You can still invest, and you can use your TFSA RSP for investments over $2,500. If you are not a resident of Canada or have not been a resident of Canada for the last 6 months of the last year, sorry to hear that, but you can still invest. Just contact us directly, and we will see what other channels are available. But always, sign up on the website to make sure you keep up to date on the news from Easy Robot. Thank you very much, Anthony. Thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you very much, JD. And everyone who's attended today. I think we've had a really good in-depth discussion, and I hope we managed to answer everybody's questions.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.